The 2031 season has come to a close with your Stanford Cardinal going back-to-back national champions in a tough, hard-fought game back and forth with the Ohio State Buckeyes. And it was honestly a completely different game than a year ago, where we pretty much swept the floor with the North Texas Mean Green, taking our first national championship in 90 years. We just had to wait a season until we got our second. But great stories like that eventually come to a close. As the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. And for the Stanford Cardinal, following this game, an era truly has closed. We've talked about it a lot the last few episodes, so we're not going to go as in-depth. But this senior class truly was terrific, and pretty much all of them should be on their way to the NFL, in my opinion. A little bit of bias mixed in there, and we also might see some key juniors join that group. And we already know that one person that we didn't expect to leave from this group the last mostly 2 seasons already left. We had to bring in Luke Murray, who in storyline, as he is a defensive coordinator that's now our offensive coordinator. The storyline is he was a pass game and defensive pass game coordinator for us on this team, so we pulled him up, and he's going to be our OC moving forward. We saw before the national championship that Nate Vick, our former OC, he was hired to become OU's head coach, and he left us. It was either the week of the national championship or in one of the playoff games. I'm not sure which. I never noticed a thing pop up saying that we had a guy get hired away from us and that we needed to fill that spot. So I didn't choose Murray, but we will be playing OU this next season. And as we look to conclude the season, let's break down the stats. Gordon Draft did not have as good of a senior campaign. A little under 4,000 yards passing, 33 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. For him, this was arguably one of his worst seasons. He didn't play the complete 2029 year, so that one's a little bit of an asterisk. So we'll put this at his second best, but he did not perform as well, at least in the touchdowns to interceptions like he did last year. Completion percentage was a little bit lower, but he threw for almost 650 more yards. Additionally, he also had more rushing touchdowns this year, despite running less. He had a smaller average by almost 10 full yards. He also had about 10 full less carries, so a decent little step back there. He had 6 fumbles this year compared to 5 last year, with his long being 53. Again, putting this year really second amongst his time here as a starter. As for Larry Sulai, we keep the 1,000-yard rushers going with 1,157 on 205 carries. He only had 7 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 72.3 a game, though only 1 fumble. We saw Draft's running stats. We saw a little bit of some of the other running backs, and they're going to have to really take hold heading into this next season. As for the receiving game, we did have 2 players break 1,000. George Ball, a phenomenal year for him. And as a 3-year participant, 2-year starter, I think we could see him look to declare this year. He again had 1,073 yards, 13 touchdowns. That's a big jump from his redshirt sophomore campaign. As for Virgil Rowland, it's hard to say that this is a disappointing season. On 50 grabs, 1052, 8 touchdowns. He averaged 21 yards per catch, about 66 yards a game. But he was the number 1 receiver heading into this year, and he did not finish number 1 in receiving. One guy, though, I am very impressed with was Ben Vallejo. He really didn't have much of any rotational play the last couple of years. He stepped in this year, and he filled a major role. He's a guy that I expect to come back for his redshirt senior year and will be one of our primary guys. He had 7 touchdowns, and then Sulai, pretty good staple in the receiving game as well. Little under 500 yards, 6 touchdowns there. I expect Jewel to kind of take over that role. Gomez, this was another step back kind of season. And it's not really that his play wasn't that good. We just didn't seem to go his way that often. But in fact, we really hadn't gone his way much since his sophomore season. But he still won tight end of the year his junior and sophomore year. Touchdowns were about the same, average about the same, so he's a very consistent tight end. And someone, maybe 7th round, I would expect, you could even be a UDFA, would find a great tight end. To the offensive line, Miles Vaughn did not have as good of a year this year. He gave up a lot of pressures. Robinson was a bit mixed, but all in all, the front group, they really held their own. Ben Cortez, though our only senior of the bunch, unless some of the red shirts declare, we will be returning 4 of 5 starters, and Ben Cortez could be another similar guy, a later round draft pick that could be really solid for a team. On the defensive side, James Tuttle, he waited until his redshirt senior year to finally become a staple, really, of this defense, and he led us in tackles. He showed out, 94 tackles, 92 for Kiki Harulahu. Your TFL leader, though, that goes to Cassius Sampson, a well-decorated player. We'll go over the awards shortly. Next, Nathan Henderson with 30, Tuttle with 19, 18 for Paschal, 15 for Kiki and Blair, 11 for Alex Augustine, who missed about half the year, so very impressive stats. And Max Schlegel, the fantastic safety, we will miss him. He's graduating, 9. Sack leader, Cassius Sampson by 1, Nathan Henderson with 19, and then you're going to have a pretty good drop-off until it's a bundle of players who've all had at least half or more. Let's talk about lockdown corners. Alex Marcock. He hasn't really been a pickoff kind of guy, but this year he racked up 8 and took away half the field. Holly had 3, 2 for Anagbar and Kevin Salmon. We had a couple Salmon runs this year. Tuttle, Heggie, and Manu Cave. For fumbles forced, we actually forced quite a few. 14 in total. Cassius Sampson led the group there with 4. Of those 14 we forced, though, we did recover 8. Pretty good, but we could do a little bit better. We had 3 players get a safety this year, Sampson, Henderson, and Afa Ivy. Of those players who did force a turnover, we did actually have quite a few touchdowns. Alex Marcock with 2, and then 1 for Sampson, Kevin Salmon, Blair, and Ty Holly. Finishing off the stats, we have kicking, and it was a bounce back year for Sam Ritter. It wasn't his best work. Went 85% on his field goals, 100% though from extra point range. And if you like punting, well, DeAndre Mears, we never really talked about him this year. He had 22 punts, averaged just under 40 yards per punt, 5 of which were down inside the 20, and only 1 was for a touchback. So he was doing a pretty good job of getting him down inside that 20. I would like to see him improve getting teams down inside the 10. But as a team, we finished with the number 2 offense. Ohio State was number 1 by a good chunk of yards, just about 55, but all in all, a really solid year. And for the second straight year, we massively lead the country when it comes to first downs. Efficient offense through and through. Defensively, though, we do have to go down a little bit, but with 130 some odd teams, you don't have to go down that far. Really solid defense this year. And we were at number 4 in points given up, so that is fantastic. Sack-wise, we were on top by a good chunk, 72 compared to Kansas State's 57. And we were also top 8 when it came to interceptions. In total, though, with fumbles accounting, we were one of the best defenses in forcing those turnovers. But now's time to break down those awards, and Trevor Azur was your Heisman winner. We played against him in the national championship, and he had a pretty good game. For the 3rd straight year, Cassius Sampson did make it onto the list. However, he finished in 5th. We do not have Gordon Draft, or as we mentioned, Virgil Rowland. Both of them were on the list to start the year. They fell off. But despite not being the Heisman winner, you do have the player of the year in Cassius Sampson. Azur was right behind him. Behind Azur, though, you have Nathan Henderson and Gordon Draft. And to round out the list, down here at 11 and 12, you have Larry Sulai and George Ball over Virgil Rowland. Now, I could have sworn we had gotten a pop-up saying that Barry Bearington was the head coach of the year. I might be mixing things up, and that could have been last year. Nate Vick actually took head coach of the year, despite the fact that he was our offensive coordinator. So, some weirdness happening there, for sure. But honestly, that's just a little bit more coals on the fire for when we play OU and Nate Vick next season. Best quarterback does go to Trevor Azur. Gordon Draft, though, finishes second. Best defensive player, Cassius Sampson, of course, Nathan Henderson right behind. You also have James Tuttle, Jason Blair, and Brian Paschal all on this list. So our defensive front is pretty good. Of all of these, though, the only ones that will be returning will be Jason Blair, maybe Brian Paschal. And shout out to the linebacker in Tuttle. Best defensive back, well, you can pretty much just give it to the Stanford Cardinal, as we took one with Alex Markuk. Second, third, and four with Schlegel, Holly, and Kevin Salmon, and you got Tyrone Heggie, the slot corner here, down at 9. Your best running back does go to Larry Sulai. Best receiver goes to Nicholas Roth, and our Stanford Cardinal do not make this list. But we're right back on it with a Lombardi, going to Cassius Sampson, Nathan Henderson in second, Blair in third, Brian Paschal in seventh. Now, Gordon Draft does win an award. He takes the Unitas Golden Arm Award. But we're going to get right back over to Cassius Sampson. He takes Best Defensive End, Nathan Henderson behind. And I understand why not making this list, because I don't think he's technically listed. Actually, I think he is. Alex Augustine. Surprised he isn't on this list. Best interior lineman you have from Arizona State, Enrique D'Amico. We do not make this list. Best tight end, that does go to Texas's Pineda. We played against him. He was pretty solid. Manuel Gomez finishes in second. He does not get the trifecta. The Broyles Award, and probably the award that Nate Vick should have been in the running for, but instead it goes to Josh Aruarie, RDC. Best linebacker, Josh Matabuke from Ohio State. Number 1, though, I don't remember seeing him on the field at all in that game. James Tuttle, Kiki Harulahu finished second and 3. Best center goes to Auburn's Jamario Sly. The Lou Groza goes to Spencer Royer of Kansas. Sam Ritter down here at 9. Best punter goes to DJ Cox with Memphis. And your best returner goes to Trayman Svitek. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, of Wisconsin. Now let's get to the All-Americans, which typically are completely wild and make no sense. And it's starting off already here at the top with the first team quarterback not being your Heisman winner in Azur or Gordon Draft. So things are already a bit weird here. In fact, we don't have any offensive players make the first team, but we do have some guys make it over on defense. Cassius Sampson, Brian Paschal, Kiki Harulahu, and none of our other linebackers or DBs. Second team, Sulai makes it there, and Penn State's quarterback George Good. So again, not the Heisman winner, nor Gordon Draft. I don't know. Get no more offensive guys for us, and Alex Markuk does make it as the number 4 corner. How about the freshmen? I don't feel like we had many freshmen play at all this year, but we do surprisingly have some guys make the list. Quan Lawton, who's not my favorite of the younger guys, but he makes the list, and Maurice Alakai makes it, as well as Caleb Kafka, the safety. Now, as for your Pac-12, still no Gordon Draft on there. Quarterback is Ian Bayless of Washington, and he is pretty solid. Larry Sulai, he gets on the board. We do get Miles Vaughn, our first offensive player that's not Larry Sulai. As for the defense, Cassius Sampson, Alex Augustine, Brian Paschal, Kiki Harulahu, Alex Markuk, Max Schlegel, and Sam Ritter, all first teamers. Second teamer, Ty Temple, still no Gordon Draft. Receiver, Virgil Rowland, no George Ball, despite the fact that he was better than him in stats and in award running. All right, we'll take it though. And Cliff Robinson makes it the right tackle. Jason Blair, Darren Sr. Why is Sr. on here and not Oscar Coley or James Tuttle? I don't know. And Ty Holly. And for the second teamers, Taj Jewell does show up here. He played very, very sparingly, but he makes the list. Doug Barkow did have to fill in quite often for some injuries. Pete Morton was a starter this year, so makes sense that he would make this list. Joseph Henry, he was a guy I would have expected to make it over Quan Lawton for the National, but both of them make it here for the Pac-12. Maurice Alakai, Brian Manuel. Then we got Manu Cave and Caleb Kafka. But before we completely leave this season, I want to give a shout out to a couple former players of our. Trey Sutton, he finishes his year over at Indiana. with 2755 passing, 24 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, 68% complete. Though at a 79, he's probably about to go become an insurance agent. The other man to actually see some playing time this year, Morgan Harvin. Just under 700 yards, 7 touchdowns for him. But with this being his senior year, I don't believe Harvin at an 80 overall is going to make it anywhere close to the league, so he'll be enjoying his time in the Army. Now, there were a few more former Stanford players that were around. Isaiah Whitaker with Akron. He did not, however, see any playing time. And the same could be said about Noah Hare, who transferred to Boise State. I completely forgot about that when we played Boise State, but he too did not see any snaps this year. One player who did see some playing time, Deshaun Kamara, but he has apparently erased his history here with Stanford, not even putting us on this list. He didn't see that much playing time. He did have 10 solo tackles, 15 total, 1 TFL, and 1 sack. And it just so happened to be that in our game against Oregon State, he did record one of those tackles on us. But now for the all-important conference champions, and I will go through and take a photo of all these to make sure we have it for the latter part in this episode where we do the promotion and relegation. But for Conference USA, the winner and moving up will be Illinois as they got the 21-16 win over Minnesota. As for the Pac-12, we did beat Washington in a close game. Big 12 championship, that went to Kansas State, not Texas, 35-21. As for the MAC and moving up is Arkansas State beating Louisiana Tech 27-24. Vanderbilt, they do beat Florida Atlantic and will be moving back up in the Sun Belt. As for the American Conference, you have Syracuse going to get the move back up as they beat Marshall 30-10. In the Mountain West, and joining the Pac-12 this next year will be New Mexico beating Arizona, keeping them down 28-24. In the SEC, Georgia takes it over Ole Miss 23-13. In the ACC, a blowout emphatic win 42-24. Penn State beats Florida. And in Big Ten country, you got Purdue taking down Ohio State 31-17. Despite finishing second in the country, they do not finish with a single championship. And the same running then moving down from the Power 5 conferences to the Group of 5 in the ACC. Florida State, despite the 7-6 total record, which would be better than 3 of these teams, they only went 1-5 in conference, losing the conference, coming in last, so they will be moving down. In the Big 12, you have Texas A&M going 2-6, the same record as North Texas. Texas A&M also has the better overall record, 6-7, but they do finish here at the bottom. As for the Big 10, you have one red team at the top, you have another at the bottom, as Miami of Ohio will be headed down. In our Pac-12, at the bottom is BYU. They've continued to kind of bounce back and forth. They're going back down, barely losing out to the fellow 1-7 UCLA, who again had a worse total record. So did Utah and Fresno State, but the games against did not go in their favor. And lastly, SEC, Georgia is at the top. At the bottom, though, you have Georgia Tech dropping back out of the SEC. Well, that concludes a wrap-up portion of this episode and gets us now stuck into the real nitty-gritty and the true end to an era. But how many extra players are leaving? We've gotten lucky in the past. As we check things out here, 3 players have decided to leave early, including Virgil Rowland. And as the rule goes, if anyone declares, we will not try to negotiate with them. So leaving, Virgil Rowland, Brian Paschal, and George Ball. So we might be looking a little bit light here at receiver. How about total guys expected to go to the draft? I'm not seeing as many here as I expected. Total expected to be a 4th round pick at a true 89 overall, makes sense. Ball expected to go 2nd round, 90 overall. Rowland, round 1 as a 94. and Paschal round 1 as a 91. Alex Markuk, another round 1. We're expected to have 5 in total. He's a 91 overall. Cassius Sampson, a 94 overall. And Kiki Harulahu, a 91. Now, I talked about Gordon Draft having a lower overall 86, and that does look like it's going to keep him out of this draft. Maybe he'll pop up as a surprise 7th rounder. It looks like he's going UDFA. Running back Larry Sulai, he could be a similar situation. Tight end Emmanuel Gomez, again, we talked about this earlier this episode alone. Probably a UDFA, maybe sneaks in 7th rounder. We only had one guy expected to go, and Ben Cortez, again, possibly UDFA. Getting to the defensive side, no one expected to go early, which means Alex Augustine is sticking around. Oscar Coley, he's probably not going to the league. Maybe indoor football, that would be fun. Alpha Ivy, Darren Sr., they might be in a similar direction or just going on into their career. Cornerbacks, no one extra is gone. Free safety, Schlegel, I really think he would be a steal as a UDFA. And then Soma Pua graduates, he's probably going to be another accountant. So as it stands, we do have 3 extra players leaving, and we did have a larger recruiting class, so we'll still probably push a few more players to transfer. But before we get into the transfer portal and just taking a look at any other recruiting we might want to do, did we have anyone extra go in the draft? Let's check things out here, and yes, we do. Emmanuel Gomez goes from being a potential undrafted to going in round 3. We do have the 5 players here go in round 1. Only the one extra player goes. Gordon Draft did not, and neither did Cortez. So still some pretty good UDFAs. Sulai in there as well. But a really good class here for the Stanford Cardinal. I expected maybe a few more juniors to declare, but I think we get out fairly unscathed. So just taking a look at what we might need to work on and take a look at in transfer portal. We want to see if there is another quarterback to take a look at. We've seen a little bit from Sorensen. His play has been a little bit up and down. Running back wise, we're going to have 3 right now. I feel like we did recruit 1, so we'll take a look at that board as well. On the receiving side, we will only have 4 returning players. 2 of them are going to be seniors, so we might need to focus a little bit on some receivers. Tight end wise, we should be pretty good. Kramer will be a senior, but we got plenty of depth underneath him. And for the offensive line, we've got a lot of young players ready to step up. On the defensive side, Nathan Henderson did not look to leave early, so he will be coming around and could be another senior for us to go in the first round next year. I do also want to see Joseph Henry out on that field. He played very well the few bits that he was out there. We'll see how he progresses. We also have some really good depth just across the board, so we should be pretty good here at outside edge rusher. Down the middle, we do have Paschal leave, but still plenty of young talent, so we don't need to focus much up front at all. We had 2 players leave here at left outside. We had 2 more leave at right outside. And down the middle, we do still have some pretty good depth. You take a look. Cornerback-wise, Mark Hook leaves, but Salmon sticks around. Heggie, I talked about moving him to safety. We'll see how well that fits, but we still have a lot of good depth. Could still take a look. Free safety-wise, Schlegel's going to be gone. A big question mark here, though, a lot of young talent. And then at strong, Ty Holly, maybe he shifts over and plays free this next year. And then Tyrone Heggie could play strong. That would fill in a possible question. Also might open up potential playing time here from Caleb Kafka, who was a freshman All-American this year. And we already have a kicker coming in, so we'll have a redshirt year for him to improve, as Sam Ritter has 1 more year here at the farm, and we're good at punter. Well, then what do we want to take a look at? Well, right now we are still the #1 recruiting class with 259.5 points. Tennessee 246.8. So we do have a pretty substantial lead right now. And we are going to be a lot younger at linebacker this year. Basically a completely new slate, guys we haven't seen before. Potentially bringing in a senior to help lead that group could be pretty useful. We've stolen a guy from Washington before, and he ended up being pretty good in Lord. We could even look to do that maybe with Prefontaine. We have brought in one running back as a high school recruit, though he's a receiving back. And if we go more air raid like our new OC is styled towards, he's not going to necessarily fit the down the middle running. We do have Wesovich for that, but some competition for sure. As for off-ball linebacker, we did already sign or get the commit from Anton Dragos. As for middle linebacker, we also have Bruce Sahara, so it's not that important that we bring in a senior, but it could be nice. So I think we could at least do our due diligence here and scout both of these players. Now, how about top quarterbacks? Doesn't look like we could go after the top available guy, which is Ricky Hyde. But there is a 3-star that is interested in us from UCLA. He would be a senior, so he wouldn't be around for long. Not sure he'd really be much of an improvement over the guys we do have, so I think we're going to hold off here at quarterback. Now, as for receiver, I'm not sure why we're being locked out of most of these. The deal breakers, we all fit. We need a B- for Coach Prestige. We have an A, even with our OC leaving. Championship contender, we are an A+. He's just looking for a B-, so not sure what the deal is on that. The top receivers we could go after, they are 2-star talents, and I don't believe we really could do with 2 stars. We already have 3 guys committed, all of which are either 4-star gems or 5-star. So I think we might just have to have a freshman or 2 play this next season. Now, I don't feel like we necessarily need more help up front. But when there's a 4-star who's already interested in us out of Hawaii, that is a place that we heavily recruited. I think we should take a look at Boozer. Same could be said for the guy out of Indianapolis, Indiana, Carlos Mota, who was previously on Notre Dame. We'll take a look at him. And if we're already looking at several other offensive linemen, let's just go ahead and have one per position. Alex Sullivan from Arizona, or previously was at Arizona, though is from Rancho Santa Margarita. I feel like this is a guy that we did already recruit in, what would have that been? He's about to be a senior, so 3 or 4 seasons ago. And as for the linebackers, outside of Dragan, everyone else is a 3 or 2-star. And all the 4 stars we are locked out of at corner. I would have been semi-interested at taking a look at a corner. A 3-star free safety, and a 2-star strong. So not a whole lot of options here, but more than what we really have done in the last couple seasons. So let's go ahead and scout these 5 players and decide if we really want to go after them or not. Starting with the off-ball linebacker. He'd be coming in with all right tackle here at 83, really good zone coverage, and that is something I don't feel like we have much of with the younger guys. I feel like more of them are run stoppers than anything else. Now, his run stopping is a concern with 69 block shedding, but I'm intrigued with some good athleticism there as well. All right, mentals, no abilities, but there's enough there to try to bring him in. Now, what about his former and maybe future teammate in Troy Prefontaine? A power back at 6'2", 230. More question on what his speed is. 92 speed. He's got some pretty good abilities, none of them platinum, but some gold and some silvers. 92 speed with 91 carrying, 89 trucking, 88 break tackle, with 94 ball carrier vision. He looks very, very good. And I don't know, Wesovich has looked pretty solid as well. But I feel like he's someone that we could use with for one season, one and done. That wouldn't be a bad option either. Now, while he didn't play at Washington, Boozer currently looking at Washington. Let's see how he looks. An agile offensive tackle. Now, that pass blocking is low. 74, he's about to be a junior. Not going to see any improvement, but the run block finesse looks really good. Run blocking in 81. I just don't see anything that is overpowering what I think the other guys we have on our roster are. So we are not going to go after Boozer. How about Mota, though? A pass protector who's 6'5", 309, would also be a junior. He might shift then to a tackle spawn. as he has 82 for his pass pro, 75 for run blocking. I feel like I've seen some of our freshmen coming in with very similar stats here. Now the PA shield is gold, which is nice. Did Boozer have any abilities? Outside shield, not awful. But I'm just not seeing too much here from this offensive line bunch. How about Sullivan? Anything impressive from him? Well, 99 lead block is pretty impressive. With 83 pass pro, 82 run blocking, 98 strength. He'd be a senior, and I feel like could maybe shift over to a guard with screen enforcer being silver, second level. Now, we just had a guard graduate, so a spot is open. I think we'll go after Alex Sullivan, who'd be slightly undersized, but still good enough. With pro potential, we'll get him on a visit as well. So we will go after 3 of these 5 transfer guys that we took a look at here, and we'll see if they decide to come join the Cardinal. And we land the off-ball linebacker from Eugene, Oregon. And he very well might be at least a third down linebacker for us this next season. But he will be the only one joining the Stanford Cardinal. Troy Prefontaine, he decides to go to Nebraska. I'm sure Wesovich is going to be happy with that. Boozer goes to Arizona State along with Alex Sullivan, one of the guys I was more interested in on the offensive line. And then as for Carlos Mota, he's going to Nebraska. But for us, that locks us in yet again. This has to be season number 3, maybe even 4, where we are the number 1 recruiting class. As for the rest of the Pac-12, Washington, they do a pretty good job. They finished 9, Oregon at 16, Arizona State at 18 with all those transfers coming in. USC rounds out the top 25. Well, there are some guys not doing all too good in recruiting. Utah at 104, Boise State at 83. I feel like they could be doing better. Cal at 71, Colorado 51. If Fresno State are beating some of these guys, yeah, they're in a worrisome spot. But I will say one thing, some of these bigger name teams, despite being relegated, they're still doing a pretty good job recruiting. TCU finishes 13, Texas Tech 22. Now, Kansas isn't doing all too well, but could be doing worse. But now is where we really get to start shaping this team and really get a good idea of what we're going to look like heading into this next season. So first off, as we move players around, let's get our athletes situated, as we do have 2. A run stopper, Bruce Sahara. Pretty sure we saw him listed as a middle linebacker. And that's pretty high on his board here, though run stopper for safety is up there. And with speed at 88, makes sense on why he could be there. Just take a look at what he looks like here. Tackling is at an 86, hit power 87, block shedding 76. With some finesse moves as well. Coverage is at a pretty good spot, so he could be an early option to tag team with the transfer that we got at linebacker then for a third down linebacker. And with him being 6'3", 247, I think middle linebacker is exactly where he needs to go. Because I've heard some mixed things about outside linebackers not really progressing much, so we will keep him at middle. Now, as for Steve Cortez, 6'3", 300 pounds, listed agile, so thinking offensive lineman then. And his surprisingly highest rated position is a blocking tight end or guard, but could also be a defensive tackle. So Cortez is an interesting guy here with 77 speed, 82 XL, strength is at a 90. Now, if you wanted him to be a tight end, he'd have to be able to catch the ball, and frankly, it's not in his wheelhouse, so that is 100% out the door. As for his blocking abilities, 83 for pass block with 83 power, 77 finesse. Run block is at an 80 with 81 and 82 for the split. Lead block 84, impact 88. Defensive side though, 86 for tackling with 83 hit power, 78 block shedding. With all the different moves very well balanced, he really could play both sides. But we do have 5 defensive tackles, and we could use with some more depth at guard. So I think left guard is where we put him. And it looks like we actually did a pretty good job recruiting some of these freshmen. Now Lockett will improve, but we do have a 79 overall true freshman and then 275 true freshmen as well. So Our receiving corps, after these guys do get a boost, is actually going to look pretty solid. Now, we are going to move one guy here at linebacker. Because we put Sahara here, we're not going to move him. Instead, we will move Jacques Lockett just to help balance out the linebacker group. He's going to move over to left, which is actually going to improve his overall by 2. And because we have so much depth here at corner, I'm still thinking that Heggie does get moved over to safety. And Holly, how would you look like as a free safety? Overall would stay the same. I think that would be a better fit with his size, 5'11", sub 180. And then Tyrone Heggie, I think he would be better at strong for us. He also goes up in overall, so we'll make that adjustment as well. That leaves Kevin Salmon to return as a starter, and depending on how these guys produce in the offseason, you got Enogbar and Manu Cave who are about deadlocked right now. So one of these guys most likely will play outside. The other would play in the slot. And frankly, they're pretty well balanced, though a little concerned if we don't see much improvement here in the zone coverage for both Kevin Salmon and Legend Enogbar. I also feel like we could use with shifting a free safety over to strong safety, as we only have 3 there. Plenty of guys over here, so I think Jamarcus Middlebrooks is going to be a good option. He's got some solid tackling, and he's got a little bit the best of the backups here in terms of man coverage. So I think he'll be the best option to then move over to strong for us. So we'll have him slide there. Overall stays the same. And with everyone in their spot, do we see anyone take a large jump forward? The training results are in, and Miles Vaughn stays our number 1 player. 95 true overall, playing at 97. Henderson, he goes up a little bit. I want to say 1 or 2 overall. He's at a 92 true, 96 overall. Alex Augustine up a little bit here as well. Jason Blair, I feel like he took a pretty big jump. Waddle does as well. I don't believe he'll be rocking number 1. We're going to have to change around some numbers. Tyrone Heggie is now a 90 overall strong safety. We're looking like a good bunch here, but we don't see much of any improvement for Justin Sorensen. So taking a look at him, he's got impact dev, 5-star, and he's definitely still got a little bit of room to improve. Accuracy could go up a little bit. His worst right now is deep at 82, but still workable. Honestly, I feel like Gordon drafts were around this spot. His arm is capped out at 95 throw power, but the IQ can go up. The health could really go up. That 78 injury is a pretty big concern. Elusiveness is at a good spot, though. Quickness as well. The only other option would be someone like Troy Sorgi, who we haven't really seen play. He'd be the slower option between Sorensen and Sorgi, though the slowest is Wooten, who is a true freshman. Best arm on the team is going to be Sorensen, Sorgi just behind, and the accuracies are all going to be a little bit of a downgrade. Though honestly, Nate House could be someone to keep an eye on. Having elite dev, now a redshirt freshman, and the accuracy is not capped. We could see that massively improve. Though his injury is actually pretty good, 95, but will be capped shortly. Elusiveness could go a long way. Quickness could see some improvement as well, but if we don't see Sorensen play, well, Nate House could be a surprising option for us. As for running back, without competition, Joe Wesovich, and he still has 2 years of eligibility. He's playing at an 85. Jewel, I feel like, does go up a little bit and potentially jumped over Bigums, but all sitting pretty close overall here. Now, we don't have that top tier speed when it comes to the power back. Wesovich, 89, but again, if we're playing spread, I think Joe Wesovich is going to be mostly just used as a power back. And Jewel might be the main guy here for us coming into this year, if the offense works as I imagine it will. Carrying between the two is about the same. Ball carrier vision, though, is going to be better with Wesovich. Break tackle is going to be a lot better with Wesovich. Bigums, though, he has 99 break tackle, so we might need to see him a little bit. He's listed as a power back with 90 speed, 91 excel. Trucking is also pretty good. We've got some options here at running back. Now, we don't have that secondary move. He's got 84 there, which honestly is better than the backup options for Wesovich. Definitely intriguing. The hands, though, is Jewel when it comes to the top 3 options, but we did just get Bobber, who I probably will redshirt this year, but he definitely has some hands for the future. And all importantly, injury concerns are there for Joe Wesovich. Now, as for Sterling Babineau, the fullback that we tried to get going over and over again last year, I feel like it does go up a little bit, but honestly, not that much. Take a look at his ratings. Yeah, he's completely capped out here, so he's not going to improve much at all. So maybe we look for a different option at a fullback spot, or maybe we just don't even go for a fullback anymore. We have plenty of tight ends that could also play that role, or we could strictly try to recruit blocking tight ends, and then they could play that fullback role for us. We have options, but we brought him in because he was pretty speedy for that fullback spot. 81 speed, 81 acceleration. We'll see how he does this next year, and that'll help us decide if we keep him around for a junior year. But how about those receivers? Gordon Lockett jumps up to our number 1 receiver. He jumps over Vallejo, Bargava, and Thrash. So we've got a new man on the block to get to know. Out of Wichita Falls, Texas, a star dev 5-star recruit from high school, redshirt freshman who's 6'3", 200 pounds. And he's coming in with some pretty good cap. The power could get a little bit better, which would just increase injury and strength. Injury could use a boost at an 85. Run blocking, 58, not awful. The route running could really use with some improvement. The release is there. The short route running is there. But he's really not a down the field threat. So I feel like, depending on what Bargava and Vallejo look like, Lockett might be more of our slot receiver this year. Because the hands, they're there. That spec catch, 99. Catch in traffic, 89. And these are caps, so they're not going to improve anymore, but they're pretty solid. Elusiveness, pretty solid as well. IQ could jump up. I mean, he had a really big jump, but really for the rest of his career, we're just going to see the route running improve. But that's his weakest point. And he does have some physicals and some mentals, so not bad. Press Pro is silver. Sure hands, 50-50 is gold with balanced, and he has platinum for recoup. He will be a very interesting player to see how he does out on that field with the low route running. As for Vallejo and Bargava, both have the size to play on the outside, and I feel like Vallejo's speed maybe did improve a little bit playing at 89 this year. He's capped out now as a senior. In fact, both Vallejo and Bargava will be seniors. How are their route running? Bargava is actually a pretty impressive route runner. Vallejo, not as much, but they have 90 plus release. So I think this next year, Bargava will be our deep threat in that role that we kind of had Virgil Rowland play. Ben Vallejo is going to be more of our George Ball, and then Lockett is going to take over that Vallejo spot. I think that seems to be pretty solid. Now we do have another guy to kind of get into that mix with Thrash, who's just kind of been sitting around this number 4 receiver spot. An impact 5-star out of high school who could see a little bit of power increase, but not a whole lot more. But how about these freshmen and someone that'll probably play this year? Addington and Watford will probably be redshirted. So Jalen Cameron, he's going to come in with 93 speed, 89 excel. He's got pretty solid hands across the board, 82 catching, 85 in traffic, 89 spec. And the route running, pretty solid. Very similar to what we have in Lockett. He's got the 80 for short, 70 for medium, 72 for deep. He's got really good release to start off with. So that's good to see. The concern with him, though, is 81 injury. And we have another surprise here. Tight end, Kari Madu jumps over Kramer and I believe Sylvia as well to become our number 1 rated tight end. Very similar to Kramer. So going between these two, speed is basically the same, strength about the same. Hands are going to be far better with Kramer. So Kramer will probably be tight end 1. Though the route running is going to be better with Madu. Blocking wise, Madhu's also really good. So it will probably be Kramer, Madhu, and then Selvia. Now, Madhu is coming in here only as a normal dev, so a bit of a surprise, but a 4-star gem out of high school, completely capped out. These tight ends don't really like to progress throughout their career, I've noticed. And he's done here as a sophomore, but 85 overall is pretty good. As for Selvia, he could see some improvement, but he's about done. And then we have the redshirt freshman in Jonathan Dugan, who's a star dev 5-star. And he could improve a little bit again, but I feel like a lot of our tight ends, they're well done by the time they are juniors. Now getting to the line, Miles Vaughn gonna hold things down at left tackle. Card will probably again be one of our primary backups. Potentially could even step in and play left guard. Or we could move around some of these centers as well. Cameron Conklin, he gets jumped by Doug Barkow. That's a bit surprising. I think Conklin should still start. So Barkow, he could then potentially step in and play over at guard. He's not the best pass pro guy straight up, but the pass pro power is really good. Finesse is a concern, and that's across the board. Over at right guard, Pete Morton, he took a good jump. I want to say he was around an 84, 85. True overall last year, now an 88, playing 91. And we got good depth behind him. Right tackle Robinson, I believe he went up a little bit. He was about an 83, maybe 84 overall true, now 88. So we got some pretty solid options. We just got to figure out this left guard spot. And I wonder how much the injury to Rick Regas did affect him, because he was injured last year. He was a starter for us. He's still out for a couple more weeks. So I wonder if that negated some of his progression here in the offseason. Either way, we'll have to sort things out there. We did have a Cortez leave and a Cortez come in. Steve Cortez, the freshman, does he have enough ability to step in and start here? Got some pretty solid ratings, but maybe not starting quite yet. Getting over to the defensive side, Nathan Henderson, a 92 true, 96 overall. Henderson, he saw a big jump as well, 87 true, 90 playing. And comparing these two, Henry has better power moves, nowhere close to as good of a well-rounded player. It's a good jump down, 10 less for finesse. The block shedding is there. I think we need to see some heavy rotation here for sure. And one thing that could open up play for Henry is if we officially move Alex Augustine to play DT. But with 84 speed, I mean, he's done a lot of work on all different facets. In fact, when we're in the more base packages, the 4-4 and maybe even the 4-2-5, Augustine can play the left or right end. And then when we go into nickel or dime, Henry could go on the outside, Augustine down to the middle. Tag team him up with Blair. Because, I mean, Alakai's not bad. He's got good block shedding. There's some power moves there. But I feel like I would rather have him be mostly a run stopper with that 91 block shed, 98 tackle ability as well. I think that would be the best option for us moving forward, getting some more options out on that field. Now getting to the linebacker group, this is going to be the group that is going to see, outside of receiver and quarterback, the largest overhaul on the team, because not a single starter returns. JP Waddle up to a 93 overall. He is an elite, I believe, 4-star gem, and he could still vastly improve here from his junior to senior year. Now, he does not have the highest coverage, which is why we looked for more cover guys. 78 zone, 63 man. Definitely some work in progress. Block shedding is down at a 66 too, so he's just a very athletic guy. He's got 99 speed. I don't know what we should do with JP Waddle, but he's got to see the field one way or another. He's got really good power moves. He's a blitzer. We have to have him out there in the 4-4 for sure, so that way he blitzes. Zone coverage here is getting a boost with our coaching, but he's definitely not the best cover man. In fact, Ron Michaels, the redshirt freshman, is an overall better cover guy. He's a better block shedder as well, so it's really just the athleticism that is elevating JP Waddle. Getting to middle linebacker, the guy we brought in as the senior probably won't see the field much. He's going to be kind of a just assistant coach for us, which is a bit unfortunate because Greg Lovelace took off this year coming in as a junior, has not seen the field. He is 94 speed, star, 4-star gem. He is capped with his run stopping though, and the block shedding is low at a 73. As for the coverage, it's not that good either. So we have a couple linebackers that their athleticism is just off the charts, but their actual playing ability outside of awareness and play recognition really doesn't stand off the table. So perhaps even with that, we'll look for some of these other guys then to really be the key guys. Block shedding, I mean, he does have the highest. As for coverage, it's kind of a little bit of Davey, a little bit of the guy we brought in from Washington in Dragan. And then over at right outside linebacker, we've got a bunch more freshman options. It's a very young group. This will develop into a core for the future. That is for sure. And we have a little bit more block shedding for the right outside. Coverage, though, a little bit mixed, but some solid options. We'll see how this linebacker group plays, and I feel like out the gate, we might just have to see a bit of a rotation until we find who our guys truly are. As for corner, well, we wondered who was going to step up, and Manu Cave goes from being, I believe, our 5th or 4th string to now our highest rated corner. That's definitely a bit of a surprise. Rico Body also jumps up, both of them jumping over Kevin Salmon. So is Salmon headed back then to the slot? He doesn't have great man coverage, but the press is really good. So perhaps Salmon is maybe listed number 2. Stays at the same spot as he was last year. And whenever we go maybe to the nickel or dime, Body moves to the outside. And then Kevin Salmon moves in. Again, we'll have to play with that a little bit. Catching is terrific, though, for both Salmon and Manu Cave. I expect a lot of turnovers. Tackling is also better with Rico Body. So Legend and Ogbar, when we brought him in, we thought he really would be a legend, but he's about to be a junior. And I don't know if he has a path to starting time. I think he could be someone that might honestly look to transfer. As for the free safety spot, Holly also gets jumped by Keenan Doss. So this is going to be a battle between two seniors here. Athleticism in favor of Doss, strength as well. Play recognition, though, that's going to be in favor, and even awareness is better for Holly. Man coverage dramatically in favor of Holly, who was a former corner. Zone coverage is close. I still think we go Holly here. Take a look at the tackling. It is better with Doss. I think Doss losing this battle, he could be someone that looks to transfer, because we also have Enrique Gonzalez just behind, who does look pretty solid. Another guy that could also probably look to transfer is Eric Mendez, as he's a junior with a sophomore above him, though we do have 2 graduating guys there, so we don't have to force him out. Strong safety wise, Tyrone Heggie moving to this spot, that was really good for us. Nicholson, Middlebrooks, and Kafka are all sitting very, very similar. But as for Tyrone Heggie, he will be the main guy this year with 99 zone coverage. I expect some big plays from the secondary. And kicker Sam Ritter, I don't feel like he really improved that much. And in fact, the only thing he could possibly improve is his quarterback play. Well, that is the roster as it stands for right now. We might shift some guys around, but I think we're at a pretty good spot with a new core about to step in place under Coach Barrington. And speaking of Coach Barrington, he actually did a terrific job when it came to recruiting this year, as we actually have an extra space available, so we don't have to have anyone leave. Just running through this roster, though, I don't feel like there are that many guys who we should encourage to leave. We're a very young team. There's a couple guys that maybe in real life would consider it, but ultimately, I feel like the core is really young. The juniors that are there still have the option or ability to maybe start in the next year. So I don't think we're going to be forcing anyone out this year. We're going to rock with a young group, and the few juniors that will be seniors, they might look to transfer next season. Now we got to get the conferences set up, and we already saw who won their conferences and who lost their conferences. So starting here in the American, Syracuse won their game, number 4 in the country. So they will be switching to the ACC, and it will be FSU who is dropping down. In the Big Ten, I believe Miami of Ohio came up last year. They are not sticking around for long. In fact, they're going to go back to Conference USA, and Illinois, they'll be making the jump up. In Big 12, it'll be Texas A&M, the right now distant past SEC team. They'll be dropping down to the MAC. In their place, it'll be Arkansas State. And moving up this year from the Mountain West, we've got the New Mexico Lobos, switching with the Cougars of BYU. And lastly, but certainly not least, Vanderbilt is finally crawling out of the Sun Belt, sending Georgia Tech back down. Now we look to the future and decide who we want to play. Now, obviously, we want some different teams in the mix this year. Playing the Pac-12 for as long as we have Season 9, we've seen a lot of the same teams. But I do like the mix-up we have this year. Boise State is going to be essentially our rivalry week, which is interesting. I feel like Cal should have taken that spot, or Notre Dame. But Boise State, Cal, Utah, New Mexico, Fresno, Arizona State, Colorado, always. And every single time it's in Boulder. I don't know if they've come to the farm once this series. Notre Dame we have in week 6. We kick off Pac-12 play with USC here in week 5. So that, I like it. It's different. We're not facing the same teams as we usually have. But I feel like this year we give a hopefully rough opening to our former OC. So we'll start with a ranked v ranked game. OU, we're starting off with a revenge game. And we're supposed to be starting this year at 6. That's an interesting spot for us considering we are back-to-back national champions. Now after OU, I'm feeling like maybe a setup game here. And I feel like a team that I don't believe we've played yet, but I believe would still provide some level of competition, but also not be in a Power 5, Group of 5 Northwestern Wildcats. And then before we get stuck in then to the real core of our season, before Pac-12 play, I would like a lighter team. And we do have a former player on Akron. I don't know if he's starting, but I feel like Akron could be a solid option. And while he may not be the starter, we should still see him have some playing time depending on how they break things down with Turner and Whitaker. I think we're going to rock with Akron. So our opponents to start the year will be OU, Northwestern, and Akron. Now, we do need to fix things because I believe last year we had by far a lot more home games than away games. So Akron will be away, so will Northwestern. But I am going to make Nate Vick come back to the farm and face everybody that he left hanging, because that is just what karma does. Well, now's really where we get to look to the future, building yet another recruiting class. And this year we do have 11 seniors set to graduate, 5 over on offense, with 2 of them being receivers. So I definitely want to make sure we bring in a couple of receivers. We do have 4 freshmen, 2 of which will be redshirted. Always want to make sure we bring in a quarterback class, because you never know how these guys are going to really do moving forward. Bringing in another true running back I think could be solid. Tight end, we could probably use with 1 as we have 1 graduating. Always going to keep an eye on offensive linemen to continually bring in high-end talent. And over on the defensive side, we do have 5 more seniors set to graduate. We'll look for a couple more defensive linemen, but it's not going to be as big of a focus. Linebacker we could probably use with maybe 1 or 2, but it's not going to be as big of a need. Corner I would like to probably bring in 1. Gonna focus maybe a little bit more here on free safety, as we do have 2 seniors set to graduate, and a little bit more question at that spot. But should probably be a lighter defensive focus. And then special teams, we already have the replacement hopeful for Sam Ritter in Hill, who's also power focused, and he will have the year to hopefully improve before he takes over as the kicker. So just hopping on over then to all that are available to us, and we actually have a pretty good handful of 5 stars already interested in coming here. An athlete, Antonio Butler. He is a power rusher. Talked about maybe bringing in 1 or so. We'll definitely scout him. A corner in Cameron Pettigrew. We'll add him to the board. Outside linebacker, also an edge rusher in Connor Parker. We'll see what he's about. Another athlete, physical. So a receiver at 6'6", 201, potentially could also play other things. We'll add him to the board. With another receiver, talked about wanting to bring in a couple. Tuahu, maybe? That's how that's pronounced? Do let me know. A running back in Stephen Adai, who is a power back. I like it, out of Sammamish, Washington. Athlete, scrambler quarterback in George Navarre. We'll add him to the list. Another athlete, agile, so potential offensive lineman, maybe defensive lineman, in Nathan Gammon. And rounding out 2 more here, Abdul Mofat, a speed rusher at DT. Keep an eye on him. And Rodney Choi? Not again sure on that pronunciation, out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Doesn't mean that we're not going to take a look at the rest of these 5 stars. And in all 5 stars that were available to us, we did find 4 gems for us to take a look at. Unfortunately, most of them are defensive linemen, the area we really don't need help at. But there is Connor Parker, who's a power rusher listed right outside linebacker from Oregon. 84 power moves and finesse moves. We don't really get a look at there, nor do we see any block shedding. So a little bit of a question mark, but 5-star gems we will always take a look at. Kyle Tam, physical receiver. That is a position we do need. And he has 98 speed at 6'2", just under 200 pounds. Spec catches there, releases there. Hands catching, still a little bit of a work in progress at a 78. Short route running is at a 79. Catching traffic, 81. There is a lot to like there. We'll obviously be going after him. Corey Shudak, another power rusher, this one out of Orlando, Florida. 88 strength with 87 speed, 82 power moves. Again, no block shedding or finesse moves listed. And lastly, but most certainly not least, Devin Nall, a run stopper from Charlotte, North Carolina. He has 73 speed, but the strength, that is a 93. 77 block shedding. We don't know the finesse or power moves, but we're gonna go after the gems, so all of these guys will be getting scholarships. Now, as for the rest of these guys, most of them are just normal 5 stars, so I'll go through each of those myself to see if I am interested. But we did also find 4 busts, and we will not be going after these guys. Unfortunately, some of them were guys at positions that I was really wanting. Offensive line, Nathan Gammon, the only 5-star offensive lineman. So he's out. 2 DTs, that's going to help narrow things down. And James Bighill, the man-to-man corner with pretty good size, 6'1", 110. We do not recruit busts, so I will be removing each of these 4 and then be looking for some 4-star gems if we really have any spots we need to fill in. And I did actually go through and I've already started to find a few more 4-star gems. Now, when it comes to 4 stars, I'm not keeping them around if they are not gems. So I still have a little bit more of some scouting to do on some players, but already we are seeing this class start to form itself. I am keeping all 5 stars on the board, even if they are not gems, but I'm going to focus on all gems first. Well, that has us ready to kickstart our next season. And heading into this year, there's not a whole lot of speculation about the team with so much in question. No Heisman on the list to start. And frankly, there might even be a little bit of some question on who is going to be the starters moving into the future. Some new players did shine here in their growth in the offseason. That'll shake some things up. We will definitely see some new names out on this field. Most of them going to come over on the defensive side, a little bit up front. Most we know, but this linebacker group is going to look vastly different this year. We don't have those guys we can rely on or that we know we can rely on. And in the secondary, the only real returners are Kevin Salmon and Ty Holly, who's changed positions this year. So we'll see how this team does next time. To make sure you're here to see the revenge game against OU and our former OC that left us right before the national championship to join the Sooners and be their head coach. And I just realized in my head how ironic that is. Sooners being the name given to OU for those who started the land rush early. Yeah, well, the OC it fits. So we'll see them next time, and we'll see you back here as long as you hit that bell icon on the bottom right, or scroll down, hit that sub button, and tap that bell icon. And if you enjoyed this offseason and are excited for the start of season 9 and really a new group here for the Stanford Cardinal, hit that thumbs up as well. We'll be back here on Friday to kickstart the season. We start another new season with the Jaguars on Wednesday, and Cha-Cha Vaz, recently promoted up to AAA. He's itching for that call up to the bigs. We'll see you around here as our Stanford Cardinal gets season 9 underway against the Sooners.